Hi, welcome to the recap room. In today's video, we'll be talking about an action, adventure, and drama film entitled The Northman. Warning, spoilers ahead. The movie is set in the North Atlantic, year 895 AD. A boy sees a fleet of ships coming. He then runs to his mother to inform her that his father is on his way back. The gates open, and we then see the arrival of the king along with his army, bringing chests and slaves with them. The townspeople, along with the king's wife and son, Prince Amleth, welcome King Orvandil. The king was so joyful when he saw his family that he greeted them with a hug. He then presented the spoils of their expedition and gave Prince Amleth a gold necklace that King Orvandil got from another prince. The king's brother named Fjolnir arrives and was offered a drink by the queen and the king. Heimir, the king's friend, makes a joke about the queen that angers Fjolnir, but the king calms his brother down. Fjolnir carries his son Thorir and raises his glass to make a toast. They celebrated the king's comeback to the kingdom of Rafnsey. After the celebration, King Orvandil shows the queen his wound from the expedition. He then said that Prince Amleth, his son, needs to be ready to replace him, for he is now getting weak because of the wound and his illness. The queen invites him to go to bed, for it's been a long time since they have seen each other. But the king refused. He instead asked the queen to pray for his luck, so that the king may see a lot of warfields and die by the sword in honor, not by sickness or getting old. King Orvandil and his son went out. He shows him the path that he and his father took when he was just a prince, and about to succeed his father. He mentions that is now their path to walk. Upon entering the chamber, the king gets the crown placed in front of them and dips it in the bowl of blood. Inside, there was a big statue of Odin. Behind it, there was a secret passage leading to the underground. They went down the ladder, and the king instructs his son not to fear and just follow his lead. The king and the prince started acting like a wolf, crawling on the ground and howling. They then drink the liquid that was given to them by Heimir. They then pass some knowledge to the prince. He swears an oath to live by honor and protect his family. And if the king dies, he should avenge the king, or he will forever live in shame. King Orvandil showed the prince his wound and asked him to touch it to see the Tree of Kings. The next morning, as they leave the temple, the king was ambushed and he asked his son to run for his life. Amleth saw how his father was pierced by a lot of spears. Shortly after, he witnessed that the leader behind this ambush is his uncle. But before dying, the king warns his brother that his kingdom will not last, for it was only stolen. Fjolnir then cuts off his head and kills the king. His men then chanted, "Long live King Fjolnir." Fjolnir commands his men to bring Prince Amleth's head to him. Hearing this, the prince escapes. He tries to run, but a man finds him. Luckily, the prince was able to cut off his nose and then escape. Back to their village, he sees that he's being raided by Fjolnir's men, and his uncle took his mother. The man who pursued Amleth earlier reports to Fjolnir saying that Amleth is now dead and sank in the sea like a stone. But Amleth is well and alive. He took a boat to run away from the kingdom, and every time he rows the paddle, he says he will avenge his father and he will kill Fjolnir. The scene then transitions to the land of the Rus. Amleth is now a man and is part of a Viking tribe. That night, they did a ritual in the rain while chanting around the bonfire and howling like wolves. The next morning, Amleth's group started raiding the nearby villages and pillaging them. They killed their soldiers and took all their kids. Amleth is now called Björnulf. An old man approaches him and mentions that when they found him as a cub, they knew that he had a heart of cold iron. After celebrating their success, Amleth went out and sees a temple. Inside, a blind woman reminds him of his previous oath to take revenge for his father. She calls him Prince Amleth and tells him to remember the Raven King. To do that, she instructs him to go to the land of the north and follow a vixen to seek the fated sword that matches his brutal rage. The woman disappears after revealing that his path is intertwined with the Maiden King. In the morning, Amleth learned that Fjolnir suffered a defeat to King Harald of Norway and fled with his wife and son to the Blackwater Iceland. He then sees a raven and is reminded of his father, who used to be called the Raven King. Afterward, Amleth cuts his hair, hides his necklace, and marks his chest to look like a slave. He disguises himself and swims to ride a boat containing slaves that will be sold to Iceland. Amlet boarded the ship to take his revenge. The woman on the boat saw through his disguise and noticed he was a Northman. She advises him to hide his cunning and to show the shepherd that he is a sheep. He then replied that he will show the shepherd his death. That night, the ship is shaken by a storm. Amlet sees a vision of his past and even sees the woman with her on the ship in his dream. They now arrived in Iceland. Amlet sees the man who almost captured him when he was little, but he didn't recognize the now grown-up prince. All of them were chained. While on their way, the woman asked Amlet why he decided to be a slave. Amlet answered that it's to find what has been stolen from him, his mother, father, and his own kingdom. The woman introduces herself as Olga from the birch forest. She mentions that she vowed to escape that island. Amlet and Olga teamed up. Amlet has the strength to break the bones of the enemy, and Olga has the cunning to break the enemy's minds. Fjolnir has now a son. The kid asks him why they are doing slave work when he's the chief of the kingdom and he's the heir. Fjolnir answered that it's the next Yule that nobody knows if they are going to be a king or a slave. That is why it's better to be prepared. Fjolnir now meets the slave shipment. Seeing that they won't last the winter, he asks the officer to just sell all of them. So Amlet acted like a madman for him to get noticed and be bought. He introduced himself to Fjolnir as Bjornulf. Fjolnir decides to keep him, and he also chooses 2 men for the fields and some maids for his wife, taking particular interest in Olga. At night, Amlet sneaks around to get a weapon. He then notices a vixen on the field. In the morning, Amlet does his job as a slave and finds an opportunity to enter Fjolnir's home. Inside, he saw his mother taking care of Fjolnir. Outside, Olga asked Amlet if he has already found what he's looking for. She then asks Amlet that if he loses her, will he come and look for her too? Their conversation was interrupted when Fjolnir's man gets Olga. At night, Amlet follows the vixen and comes across a warlock chanting in front of a bonfire. The man recognizes him. He reveals that he knows him because of Heimir. He then showed Heimir's head and tells the story of how Fjolnir tortured Heimir before he killed him. The warlock called the spirit of Heimir so that Amlet can talk to him. He tells him about the tale of the legendary sword called Draugr, the undead. The warlock said that it can only be unseated in the dark of night or at Hell's black gates. The warlock then reveals that he needs to visit the owner of the sword first, the Mound Dweller. So Amlet went to the tomb of the owner of Draugr, the Mound Dweller. He fought its moving corpse and beheaded it. As a result, he now obtained the sword Draugr, the undead. Amlet went to the village and is seen by Fjolnir's dog, who starts barking at him. He growled back at him to make him shut up. He then sees Fjolnir visited Olga to spend the night with her, but she shows her that she's on her period. She then tries to attack him, but he managed to push her aside and orders the woman in charge to correct her. Amlet then hid his sword on top of the house beneath the hay. In the morning, Amlet talks to Olga about his plan to defeat his uncle. He reveals that he has the sword to kill Fjolnir. In addition, he reveals that he will save his mother, for he believes that she's just playing along for the safety of his son. But they were interrupted by someone who was looking for Amlet, so he tells her that their plan will have to wait first and asks Olga to leave. Amlet joins the other slaves and went on a journey for a feast in another village. He was chosen along with a few others to join a brutal game where 2 teams of 5 fight over a pole. But there are no rules. Killing is allowed to win. After a while, only Amlet and a big opponent is left. Fjolnir's team is losing, and this made Gunnar disappointed. So he takes it to his own hands to get the ball to score, but the opponent tries to chase him. Amlet successfully saves Gunnar and takes down the enemy. At night, as they are celebrating the victory, Prince Thorir, son of Fjolnir, recognized the braveness of Amlet. He said that he will be rewarded when they go back to the village. From now on, he'll have certain privileges at the farm. He'll work less and command the other slaves. And in addition, Amlet can choose whatever woman he likes, even if it's Olga, whom his father likes. He then looks for her, and they made love at night. Afterward, she said that tomorrow night they will begin their plan and bring Fjolnir's life to chaos. They also find a special mushroom that they can use for their plan. Amlet is now back at the village. He then commands the other slaves what to do. When the night falls, Amlet starts his killing using his weapon. At the next day, Thorir was angry as he sees his friend's body pinned to the wall. Fjolnir calmed his son Thorir and said that they are going to avenge them. Thorir blames it on the Christians, but when a priestess checks, she realizes that the wound is not from this world, and whoever did this will surely attack again. So she decides to prepare a sacrifice. As they are preparing the woman's sacrifice, Amlet provokes all the animals to bark, howl, and attack. It includes turning Raki, Fjolnir's dog, into madness, attacking his own owner. While that is happening, Amlet saved the woman that was about to be sacrificed. In the morning, Fjolnir decides to order the slaves to defend the village. And when the night comes, Olga poisoned the food being rationed to the soldiers of Fjolnir. The poison made the soldiers into madmen. They began hallucinating and ended up killing each other and themselves. Amlet then meets Olga to talk about a spot where they will meet at dawn. Afterward, he sneaked into the room of his mother and revealed himself to her. He told her that he has come to avenge his father's death and to free her. But to Amlet's surprise, his mother said that she never mourned for his dead husband. She revealed that his father endured her only because she bore him a son. In addition, she said that his father only loves his gold, silver, and his horse. His mother told Amlet how Fjolnir loved her so much. She was only telling false stories to Amlet when he was a kid. And to his surprise, Amlet found out that his mother was the one who begged Fjolnir to kill King Orvandil and Amlet himself. She also reveals that if he kills Fjolnir, Thorir, and Gunnar, he will be her new king and they will both rule together. She kisses him, but he moved away. She tries to take Amlet's sword, but fails. He runs away from his mother and kills Thorir on his bed. Amlet met with Olga and tells her everything he found out. He shares his plan to hide first, since his identity is now revealed. He says he's going to come back to kill Fjolnir and the others. In the morning, Fjolnir mourned for his son's lifeless body. When Amlet killed Thorir, he took his heart from the body. Fjolnir cried to his god Freyr, asking what evil eats the heart of a brave young man. But Gudrun calls him and asks him not to act that way in front of his people. He reveals that it was Amlet's doing. He says he has an ally among the slaves and asks him to find them. Fjolnir kills the slaves one by one. As he was about to kill Olga, Amlet arrives, offering Thorir's heart in exchange for Olga's life. He then introduced himself as Amlet, the Beowulf, son of King Orvandil, War Raven. Fjolnir orders his men to kill him, but he was overpowered. Meanwhile, he saw Olga running away by herself. Amlet was then captured, and Fjolnir takes the heart from him. But he asks him how he can be sure that is his son Thorir's heart, and not the heart of a rabid dog that was killed 2 days ago. Amlet was tortured to tell where Thorir's heart is, but he refuses to tell. While Amlet is alone, hanging tied to some wood, a group of raven help Amlet to break free. Meanwhile, Fjolnir and the whole village are having a ceremonial funeral for Thorir. Gunnar is then proclaimed the only heir to the throne. After the ritual, Fjolnir went rushing to where Amlet is held captive, but he finds out that he's already gone. Amlet is then carried by a white horse that can fly, ridden by a Valkyr, but it was only a dream. Amlet woke up in the spring, and it turns out that it was Olga who carried him. Amlet and Olga opened up about how they were fated to love each other. They both decide to ride towards the sea to find their own future. They boarded the ship disguising themselves as Fjolnir's men. As they are sailing away from the island, Amlet notices Olga's car and kisses it. With this, he saw his family tree again. He found out that Olga is pregnant with Amlet's child, and it is twins. But Amlet is scared that if Fjolnir is left alive, his child with Olga will never be safe. He then decides to go back to finish Fjolnir, but Olga stops him. Remembering he was told he would have to choose between kindness for his kind or hate for his enemies, Amlet decides to choose both. He then jumps to the sea to swim back and defeat Fjolnir. Amlet attacked the village at night and started killing Fjolnir's men. He freed all the slaves and went to look for Fjolnir in their house, but it was his mother that he saw. His mother tried to slash him with a sword, but Amlet pierces his mother hard. Gunnar attacks him from behind, but he also killed him. Fjolnir enters his house and carries his son and his dead wife's body. He told Amlet that their last battle will be at the gates of hell. After a long journey, Amlet arrives at the gates of hell. He saw his mother and Gunnar's dead body. Amlet then started chanting while moving to his final battle against Fjolnir. They both gave everything to defeat each other, but Amlet was the first one hurt. But he finds the strength to rise again and beheaded Fjolnir. In the end, He was also stabbed in the heart, resulting in both of them dying. The movie ends with Olga holding both of her children, saying that they are safe, and Amleth can now make his passage to Valhalla. And that's the end of the video. For more movie recaps like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, so that you are notified on our next uploads. Thank you for watching.